Every time I think a game looks interesting and I get excited for its release, devs feel the need to tack on an extra PV to my PvE. Way back in the day, I saw the first trailer for Escape from Tarkov, the brutally realistic milsim FPS from Battlestate Games. I was hardly into shooters like that at the time. I could barely get 3 kills on Call of Duty. But I was a young adult with disposable income, so I said, gimme. I bought the Edge of Darkness edition, which was their highest edition at the time. It was only after then that I realized the game was pretty much 100% PvP. I didn't actually sit down to play Tarkov until earlier this year, strictly because it now has a PvE mode, and additionally because Trey could not shut up about it. Then, E3 2017 showed me Hunt Showdown, developed by Crytek Frankfurt. A dark post-Civil War FPS with supernatural elements? Sign me up. What's that? It's PvPvE? Of course it is.
You're killing me!
It looks like Hunt got a single-player PvE mode at some point, but it never expanded beyond that, and it has since been removed, so there goes that. Fast forward to now. I'm minding my business cobbling together the jump space breakdown, which you, yes you, should watch after this, and I started seeing ads for the Arc Raiders Server Slam, a stress test for a new extraction shooter. This time, I knew full well what I was stepping into, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I came away with the impression that the game was actually quite enjoyable, so I'm here to do what I do and thoroughly impart upon you just how enjoyable Arc Raiders is. Embark Studios is a dev studio based in Stockholm, Sweden, founded in 2018 by industry veterans Magnus Norden, Rob Runzen, Stefan Strandberg, Patrick Soderlund, Jenny Holtshiner, and Johan Andersson. They're all former employees of DICE, the studio that brought us the Battlefronts, the Mirror's Edges, and every Battlefield game. Patrick Soderlund, the CEO of Embark Studios, was formerly the CEO of DICE and Chief Design Officer at Electronic Arts. Soderlund left DICE in order to found Embark Studios after almost 2 decades in his position, and brought quite a few other employees of DICE with him. Embark began their approach to developing games with a focus on procedural content, player collaboration, machine learning, and cloud computing, both of which were still relatively new at the time. Shortly after Embark's founding in 2018, Nexon swooped in to purchase a majority stake in the studio, later on acquiring them fully in 2021, but still allows Embark to operate with some amount of autonomy. After the team count had risen to about 50 people, Soderlund shared the details of the studio's first project in February 2019, revealing that it will be a free-to-play co-op action game. The game was officially revealed in 2021 as Arc Raiders. Arc was neck and neck in development with another project, The Finals, but the development of the latter progressed faster than the former, leading Embark to release The Finals first. The Finals released in December 2023 and topped 10 million players in its first 2 weeks of release, but I think now it sits somewhere between 20 and 30,000 players consistently. As seen in the reveal at the Game Awards, the original idea was for a purely PvE experience that pits humans against gigantic robots in a distant future setting. However, when multiple sources of feedback told the team something wasn't adding up, they went back to the drawing board, reinventing the whole thing to be PvPvE. It was a substantial move of the goalpost at a point when the devs thought they were in the home stretch. The reasoning behind the change was Patrick Soderlund coming to the conclusion that, as it existed, the game was just too boring. Regardless of how I feel about the changes, the game has soared past 4 million copies sold and has reached as high as 700,000 concurrent players on Steam, so I'd call it a success. While both games garnered mostly positive feedback, critics pulled up on Embark Studios over their use of AI-generated voiceovers. Just like with Jump Space, I had to be told the character voices were AI because they sound so natural to me that I genuinely had no reason to suspect otherwise.
When they talk about the first wave, they mention the battles. The heroics. But fighting back is more than gunshots and bullet holes. It's mouths to feed, crops to grow. It's all of us. Together.
The story of Arc Raiders is one you have to dig a little for, but it's not too complicated. Everything started with the collapse, a sudden wave of catastrophic earthquakes, floods, and fires that ravaged the surface of Earth many generations ago. Some groups of survivors managed to cobble together the remains of advanced technology and construct spacefaring vessels in order to escape into the stars, a period referred to as the Exodus. Once things on Earth calmed down, those survivors who remained started trying to rebuild. Settlements, trade routes, hydroponics, and all that. Right when things seemed to be getting back to some version of normal, the first wave happened. Lethal robotic constructs started falling from the skies, and although these machines seemed fairly rudimentary, they still wiped out large numbers of humans before their weaknesses were discovered and humanity was able to mount a proper offensive. Over 10 years of hard combat, the Ark, the collective label given to the Clankers, were driven from the planet, but just a few years later, Ark machines returned significantly more advanced than what they were previously. The second wave of Ark proved much more capable, so a lot of humans fled underground, establishing cities like the massive settlement of Speranza, only breaching topside for short supply trips, being careful not to stay exposed for too long, otherwise the Ark orbiter would nuke wherever it detected humans. Now, Ark Raiders, the name given to those brave enough to go to the surface, do their best to salvage loot and anything that may be useful to continue life in the underground, or perhaps provide the means to fight off the Ark once and for all. Of course, in every human survivor story, there are groups with differing ideologies and they tend to clash, so hostility over territories and loot have pit raiders against raiders countless times, ensuring that Ark isn't the only thing to worry about when venturing topside. Ark Raiders is about raiding, and the successful raids are ones you prepare for.
Whoa! Oh. Dude, what's all that stuff you're grabbing?
Tools! Tools! Duct tape, zip ties, and gloves! I have to have my tools!
Your loadout is comprised of a few important parts. An augment, which determines your maximum encumbrance and shield compatibility, a shield, which partially deflects incoming damage, your guns, which oftentimes make or break your run, your quick-use item slots, which allow you to use healing items or toss throwables, and your general inventory slots, which house ammo, loot, and other excess items. Your augment, shield, and guns have durability and can break, becoming unusable, and I don't need to tell you why your shield or gun ceasing function is a bad thing in the midst of a raid, so keep them repaired, or loot a replacement if you're in a pinch. As I said, your chosen augment determines your maximum encumbrance, and everything in your inventory, from your guns down to the bandages, weighs something. Augments also dictate what kinds of shields you can use, light, medium, or heavy, and each shield offers differing levels of damage deflection with a slight cost to your overall movement speed. Higher rarity augments can also add one or more safe pockets, which are separate inventory slots where you should put anything, barring weapons, that you absolutely want to take out of your current raid, regardless of your success in that raid. Quick use slots are for various quick use items like bandages, shield recharges, gadgets like zip lines or deployable cover, grenades, and more. Bringing at least one stack of normal bandages and at least 3 shield recharges should get you through any raid if you play smart. There are 4 types of ammunition you need to be concerned with: heavy ammo, medium ammo, light ammo, and shotgun ammo. Heavy guns and ammo pack a punch that Ark enemies will feel, so a gun that uses heavy ammo would be good for any map, since all maps have Ark enemies, and it can also crack any player's shield in 1 to 2 shots. Heavy guns generally take longer to reload though, so if you're planning on running into players, a light gun and ammo would be good for mid-range PvP encounters since they typically fire fast and reload fast. Or a shotgun if you're in close quarters, although light ammo and shotguns are weak against Ark enemies. Medium guns and ammo strike a balance between heavy and light, being equally good against players and Ark. Guns also have attachment slots for things like extended mags, muzzles, foregrips, or stocks, and guns come in a variety of firing modes like lever action, 3-round burst, full auto, break action, and more. You can currently upgrade guns up to level 4, which may somewhat alleviate a weapon's individual shortcomings through the weapon's upgrade modifiers, shorthand for what specific stats will be improved upon upgrading a weapon. Modifiers are unique to the type of gun you're upgrading, and typically they're the best upgrades for that gun, like reduced reload time for the Pharaoh, or increased fire rate for the Renegade. Obviously, your gun's firing type and your own accuracy will determine how fast you're going to chew through your ammo, but remember, attachments, ammo, and guns all weigh something, and you have limited carrying capacity. The more inventory slots that are free, the more space you have for loot, in theory. I'm actually ahead of myself here. You have to choose a map before editing your loadout.
Oh my god, this looks awesome. Sweet.
Hey, look, a thing.
Arc Raiders launched with 4 maps, with the 5th one, Stella Montis, being unlocked just a week or so before this video, through a community event. You can also visit a practice range to test various guns, ammo, and items against player dummies or arc dummies, and it's a good way to familiarize yourself with just how many shots of what kind of ammo it takes to down certain enemies. Different maps will offer different varieties of loot. For example, Buried City has a lot of spots for residential, old world, and medical loot, while Spaceport has a lot of spots for technological, mechanical, and industrial loot. Every map also has designated moderate and high loot zones, and both are known to house above average loot as well as trigger happy players. If you have a quest to do, it will usually note what area of the map you'll have to venture to, so you can inspect the map prior to entering the raid in order to plan your approach to your objective. Different maps will also provide different sight lines and enemy danger. Blue Gate is mostly wide open fields where arc enemies and other players can see you from a mile off. Buried City features many small interior spaces, while Dam Battlegrounds has a mix of mid-range interior and exterior spaces, but both maps give you a fighting chance at fleeing combat by ducking in and out of buildings. Maps will undergo condition changes every hour or two. Usual conditions can include an influx of raider caches or arc probes to be looted, booby-trapped husks of the first wave that have a chance to contain rare arc parts, and a harvester, which is basically a treasure chest death trap guarded by the Queen, a gigantic arc boss rivaled only by the recently added Matriarch, both of which would take either the whole lobby or 2 raiders with inventories jammed full of grenades to bring down. Then there are major map conditions like electromagnetic storms, which hammer every inch of the outdoors with lethal lightning strikes, night raids, which cover a map in advanced darkness while you search for the best loot, hidden bunkers that are basically PvP war zones with the small possibility of you living long enough to loot anything, and I'm sure there are more conditions to come in the future. Major map conditions come with their own set of rules that can affect things like the overall quality of loot that can be found during them, or the total number of return points available. I was actually really ahead of myself, because you have to choose how big of a squad you want before selecting a map.
Yeah, I called it.
Damn. That's funny as hell.
As you know, Arc Raiders is a PvPvE game, but the tendency to encounter more of the E or the P depends on who is with you. Solo runs are where the community has mostly agreed to get questing done, rarely engaging in PvP, and more likely to ally with each other to fight tougher enemies. That doesn't mean you can be brazen with looting, however. Give other players a wide berth, otherwise you may fall victim to some frontier justice. Just treat everywhere you go like the Wild Wild West. Duos just recently got proper matchmaking, meaning you and a buddy now have the best chance of being thrown into a game with strictly duo squads, whereas previously you would still typically be up against squads of 3. If I had to give each squad size a percentage for the likelihood of you ending up in some kind of PvP altercation, it would look like this. At any point you can use your mic or an in-game callout to say you're friendly, and people usually leave you alone.
Hey, don't shoot!
Stowing your weapon also helps sell the notion that you're not looking for a fight.
Yeah, I'm coming down. I'm headed the other way.
I'm not drawing my weapons. Thanks, brother.
In trios, you have to go in prepared to fight other players. There's no 2 ways about it.
I just want to evac. Call it. Let me out.
Watch out, kill that guy, kill that guy, he's evil.
Don't kill this guy. Oh,
Okay, I guess I'll kill him.
Why? We didn't shoot, you idiot.
Oh shit, I got smoked.
Most trio squads shoot first and ask questions never, and if you're carrying valuable loot, you might want to do the same. It boils down to, don't get caught outside of cover, and refrain from making any unnecessary noise, especially if you suspect other enemies are nearby. Okay, once your squad is set, your map is chosen, and your loadout is loaded, it's time to raid. Once you're in raid, check the timer at the top. A fresh raid starts with 30 minutes, whereas if you enter a raid at any time after that, it's a raid in progress and a lot of the popular loot spots will already be picked clean. Not to mention, you'll have less time to run around. You can pull up your map to review your logbook to remind yourself where you have to go for a quest, or where necessary materials and rare loot can be found for station upgrades in your workshop back in Speranza, or plain and simply loot for monetary gain. Your map pings persist until you pin somewhere else, and all squad members can ping as well, so you can quickly set waypoints for your exploration from start to finish. The map also shows every available public return point and a timer letting you know how long you have until that return point is no longer active. I want to talk about the sound design in this game because it's an integral part of the experience. Anything you do, whether it's breaking into a container to loot, the act of looting, running, climbing, recharging your shield, calling for evac, opening doors, using a zip line, or firing guns all make some level of noise. You can use these sounds to listen out for nearby players as well as ARC enemies, but some of the aforementioned sounds also attract nearby ARC enemies as well as players, so it's best to avoid large-scale confrontations with ARC or lengthy shootouts with players, lest you get snuck up on and eliminated by either one. Your Raider's skill tree has a few skills which lower the noise created by breaching containers and doors, or looting or moving in general, as well as shortening the time it takes to breach or reveal loot within a container. So if you feel like the noise is too much of an issue to how you play, you have some options to get around it. Outside of that, just make a habit of walking or crouching while exploring anywhere. Your footsteps are much quieter that way. Stamina is also part of the equation, and it's drained in many ways. Mantling, dodge rolling, jumping, and running. If you're trying to evade ARC, players, or both, you'll be doing a lot of all of that, and your stamina gauge will be empty within seconds, to say nothing of all the noise you'll be making. Save running and dodge rolling for emergencies, and make good use of cover or moving while crouched. Fall damage is a thing, but grabbing ledges or mantling is as well, so if you accidentally dodge off of a rooftop, pray you catch a ledge or a zipline on the way down to save yourself from critical injury or certain death. Some skills on your skill tree can increase your maximum stamina, lessen the amount of stamina certain actions spend, and even increase how fast you move while crouched. There's no easy way to reset skill points at the moment, so think twice, and then think again, before spending your skill points. Examine every node of every wing of the skill tree, and plan it out. You'll be glad you did. Handling enemy players is cut and dry. Kill them before they kill you. Your shield only mitigates damage, but that mitigation is all that stands between you and potentially being one-shot by a bored sniper. Your choice of weapons and general skill with those weapons will tell you how likely you are to win in any combat scenario. Remember, heavy ammo can crack shields in 1 to 2 shots, meaning the player will most likely retreat briefly to pop a shield recharge to get it back. If you can, you should switch to light ammo or a shotgun, since light guns fire a lot, quickly, and shotguns fire quickly, a lot. Either would be perfect to shred a player's remaining health and then move on to the next one.
So these punks,
yes,
I don't know if they wanted money or they wanted something more sexual. Wow. But it's a lucky thing I had my pieces.
Your pieces?
My guns.
Oh.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang!
Wow.
ARC enemies can end a run right off the bat if you're not ready for them. Building interiors will house pops and fireballs which do ridiculous damage for being so small and easily destroyed. Pops rush you faster than you can move once they spot you, so if you're not ready for them, they can hit you back to back and down you in the blink of an eye. Patrolling the skies, you'll commonly see wasps, hornets, and snitches. Wasps lock on and shoot rapidly to heavily damage you. Hornets lock on to fire a taser shot, which will damage and immobilize you. Snitches don't attack directly, but if one notices you and you do nothing about it, it will call down additional wasps to the area to find you. After that, you get into bigger arcs like the Leaper, Bastion, and Rocketeer, but I'll leave those for you to run into on your own. Most ARC enemies have some level of armor plating covering their weak spots. Flying ARC enemies have turbines you can shoot and destroy to send them crashing down to the ground, and stronger ground-based ARCs have leg joints you can destroy to hinder their mobility. Remember, light ammo will do little against ARC enemies, medium ammo will hurt them more, and heavy will bring them down with relative ease. Once your immediate battle is done, and you're certain your shootout didn't attract every raider from Buried City to Stellamontis, you can loot the Fallen, or just proceed to loot the general area. Loot contents take time to be revealed no matter what source you find the loot from, and sometimes great loot can be found in the most benign locations, so every container is worth peeking into. But remember, Looting makes noise, and you're a sitting duck while in the looting screen, so loot at your own peril. When a player is downed, they can only be revived by a squad mate for free or a quick-use defibrillator administered by any other player. Once down, you can crawl around to get somewhere for someone to safely revive you, but failing that, an enemy player will finish you off or you'll simply bleed out. As a general rule, and one more easily said than done, don't die. If you die, everything outside of your safe pockets will be lost to you, becoming loot for someone else to find. Be smart and pick your battles. Players in Ark alike can come out of nowhere, but you don't have to participate in every single fight. Find a way to leave the immediate area, or find a way to make yourself a less desirable target. If you die one too many times, you can enter a raid using a free loadout, which gives you one random gun with ammo, random quick use items, a base level augment with little carrying capacity and no safe pocket, and a light shield, all of which is yours to keep if you extract with it. I don't have to tell you why entering a map with a random gun and random items would not be good for success, but at least your would-be murderers would just be wasting ammo on you since you don't really have anything worth taking. Once you've fought, looted, and explored as much as the timer would allow, it's time to extract. When the timer hits 5 minutes remaining, the first nuke from the Ark orbiter will hit the outskirts of the map, and that is, decidedly, your signal to get the fuck out. Checking your map, you'll see one remaining return point, and you need to get there immediately. This is where people make mistakes. Running willy-nilly, outside of cover, not watching your vantage points for enemy snipers or overhead for patrolling Ark, and your stamina is low because you were just running without thinking. Ark do not stop chasing you once they spot you, unless you break line of sight and stay hidden for a minute. If you're headed to evac, you don't have a minute to waste, the area is likely wide open, and you have precious little cover obscuring you from enemies, so do not let your guard down until you are in the extraction zone and the doors are closing. Now, return points are not only lacking cover, they are also very loud. As soon as you press the call button on the return point, a fanfare of lights, sounds, and an announcement will flood the vicinity.
Calling it. Bowie.
Letting everyone within earshot or line of sight know that someone is trying to extract. After 30 seconds, extraction will open and you can enter. Extraction will close and depart after you interact with either extraction terminal, or it will depart automatically after 2 minutes. No matter how much time you don't have left, as long as you press the extraction call button before the raid timer hits 0, you can still extract safely. You can be hurt or stunned by players or Ark while using the extraction terminal, so keep your head on a swivel. Use distractions like smoke grenades, mines, traps, or your squad mates to protect yourself until the terminal sequence is completed and you can successfully extract. Even if you've been downed, as long as you can hit the call button, crawl into extraction, and hit the terminal to leave before you bleed out, you have extracted successfully. If you are fortunate enough to have a Raider hatch key, you can use a Raider hatch to extract. Raider hatches have no set time limit and they're always active unless there is a major map condition that prevents them from being used. My go-to move is to use a medium augment with 2 safe pockets, one for a room key and one for a Raider hatch key. Room keys are single-use rare drops that give you access to one of many locked loot rooms on certain maps, and they usually contain loot you'll definitely want to extract with. When you're ready to head out, locate a Raider hatch on your map, insert the key into the hatch console, and for about 15 seconds, anybody can use that hatch to extract safely. Always keep Raider hatch keys in your safe pocket so, just in case you die, you don't give your killer the perfect means to escape with all of your stuff. Extraction brings home everything you took into a raid as well as everything you've looted during the raid. There are quests you are given as you level up and gain access to more maps. Some of those quests just require you to complete some actions in raid, and some will ask you to find certain items and extract with them. If you find quest items and you really want to make it home with everything else you have, extract immediately. Back in Speranza, you have a workshop with stations that you can assemble and then upgrade to increase the types of things your stations can craft. Some rare materials you need to upgrade stations can be refined at the refiner or acquired from one of the traders, but the vast majority of rarer materials are found in raid. Let's say you just entered a raid and you finally found the materials you need to upgrade your gunsmith station. Leave immediately. Let's say you found an epic rarity gun. Leave immediately. What if the raid has less than 5 minutes remaining and the only available return point is on the opposite end of the map? stop what you are doing and start moving. Upon raid completion, you'll be presented with your results. A map display of the route you took during your raid along with details of the specifics of your looting or fighting, a look at everything you successfully extracted with, the total amount of XP gained, which allows for leveling up your raider and unlocking new skills, your completed feats, and lastly, your quest progress. The most common loot will be materials, of all rarities and values, both in terms of sale value and importance to crafting, quests, or upgrading stations. Having your stations upgraded to level 3 will give you such freedom when it comes to crafting that losing an inventory full of gear to a surprise death will be laughable. Even more so if you manage to find blueprints for some good guns or items. That way you can craft as many as your stash will allow. You also have Scrappy, your trusty feathered companion, who scavenges for all basic materials while you're out raiding. Everything you return to Speranza with will get sorted into your stash. Your stash has limited space and you can upgrade your stash size using coins, but it's never enough. Items don't stack enough to give you a fighting chance of keeping a clean stash, so you'll find yourself making tough decisions in order to free up a couple slots. If you're tracking resources to craft or upgrade something, those items will have an eyeball icon on them, letting you know you need that item for something. Item tooltips will tell you exactly where to find more of that item, everything that item can be used to craft, or what guns and attachment can be used for, but they don't tell you what quests might need them. Drake found a guide somewhere that details what you should keep and what you should salvage or sell, so feel free to screenshot it. Skill points cannot currently be reset and reallocated without undertaking an expedition after level 20. An expedition basically has you donate tons of various materials in order to sunset your current raider by sending them off into the unknown on an expedition. This will start you with a new raider with some of your progress carrying over and other things like your skill tree being reset. The specifics of what gets reset and what doesn't is outlined in the explanation of the expedition. Selling any looted items earns you coins, and items specifically marked as trinkets will give you a lot of coins. Coins can be used to purchase equipment or items from traders in Speranza, as well as upgrade your stash capacity. Quests reward useful equipment, items, and cosmetics in addition to familiarizing you with the different areas around the available maps, so those are always worth doing. Feats are daily challenges you can complete to earn creds, and creds are used to buy cosmetics and item packs from decks, which function very similarly to the war bonds in Helldivers 2. Decks also have small packs of Raider tokens for sale, and Raider tokens are the premium currency used to purchase cosmetic packs in the store. The different outfits have modifiable parts and multiple color palette options, giving you some level of individuality to stand apart from your fellow Raiders. Outfits can only be changed back in Speranza and are a useful way to call out an aggressive player in a solo raid, since you can't readily see their name, but you can see what they're wearing. I tend to run my quests in solos and squad up when I want to get my feats for the day completed faster, since feat progress as well as trials progress is squad wide. At level 15 you unlock trials, which is a selection of categories of actions you can partake in to earn rank points needed to increase your trials rank. Maintaining a certain rank in trials when a weekly refresh occurs will reward you with certain emotes or cosmetics, and all trials progress is reset at the end of the current season. Let's say you want to work on your damaged ground-based arc enemies trial. Prepare a loadout fit for the task to make your job easier, enter a raid, find the ground-based arc enemy or enemies of your choice, put a righteous hurting on them, looting optional, and then head out. Keep in mind, trial progress is only kept if you successfully extract from the raid. Major map conditions award double rank points for trials, so it's advised you focus those if you want to make serious progress. That's about it for the gameplay loop of Arc Raiders. You may die and lose all your shit a few times in the beginning, and a few more times after that. But what's important is that you learn from your deaths and adapt your approach. The rush you feel going into a raid, finding good loot, defending yourself against Arc and players alike, and then successfully extracting is electrifying, and it keeps me coming back for more. Not to mention, the presence of other players tends to lead to some hilarious situations.
I got an ammo. Please. Oh God. Oh, please help me. Oh, what are you doing? Come back here.
Oh, players left.
Raider, over there.
Friendlies.
Are you the one shooting us?
No, we should have a bot.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh boy. No, our new friends!
Terminal online. Proceed to backup.
Good job.
Holy fuck, man.
Now it's time for review bombing. This is the part of the breakdown where someone goes,
Hey, don't shoot!
and then gets shot anyway. Our first one is from Sir Shogun. The gameplay loop is simple and fun. There's a few bugs, it looks good, and overall the PvE experience isn't bad. However, PvP makes everything feel miserable, and extractions being in fixed, marked points makes it easy for people to camp them and ruin your entire run. It ends up happening a lot, and if you use anything but a free kit, be prepared to get jumped and lose gear every time. Back in my early hours of playing, I was shot at when going to evac, but it hasn't happened to me since the first week, so I think homie has just had some bad luck. In my time in Arc Raiders, I've come across 2 bugs. One time I fell through the map on Buried City, but eventually I was able to get back up again in time to extract. And another time my game crashed when I opened a tab in Chrome to look up what I needed to do for a quest, but on re-entry the game offered to reconnect me to my session, so no big deal. They're also right that you have to be prepared to get jumped by other players at any time, but if you follow any of the wisdom I've imparted on you thus far, you'll be ready. The second review is from Ayura. I love the atmosphere, the graphics are great, the lore has potential to evolve into a long and interesting story. I've always struggled with the player mentality in most extraction shooters, but this one hit different, and during the first week I absolutely loved this game to the point where it felt like this will be my main game for the upcoming future. Unfortunately, the mentality in the player base has quickly developed into the same kill on sight that you find in any other extraction shooter. In just a couple of days, the average match has gone from mostly helpful and passive players with the occasional PvP camper to be nothing more than free-for-all deathmatches. People don't even loot, they just kill to kill. It does not align with the game's story at all. If this was the true mentality in the world of Ark, humanity would have been dead long ago. In my opinion, this change in player behavior is an inevitable evolution when a developer combines a predatory and peaceful player base without implementing any sort of control. PvP in itself is not bad, neither is PvE, but there is a major difference. PvP is predatory of PvE. Left unchecked, PvP eventually tears down the PvE player base trust, and they will either resort to the same level of kill on sight just to stay alive, or they will leave the game entirely, leaving only PvP left as the primary gaming method, where the AI PvE becomes just some background noise. When that happens, the PvP players that only enjoy PvP if they get to prey on easy targets that won't or can't fight back will also leave the game, because suddenly they also suffer from skill issue against proper PvE players. There's no need for a hard separation of the two playstyles, but the matchmaking needs to take playstyle into consideration. You need some sort of point system, hidden or transparent. A player that frequently damages and or kills other players should get increasingly matched against players of similar style, while players who get through rounds without hurting others or even helping others should be matched more with their equals. This way you get a soft separation of the two big player bases that love this game for their own reasons without dividing them into two separate sections. It doesn't remove the tension, as you still never fully know if someone else in your match would suddenly decide they need the same loot you need and are willing to shoot to get it. I think their suggested fix holds water. The tendency to shoot on sight has risen since launch, through a combination of hardcore PvP hounds opening fire on everybody they see, and more docile players preemptively shooting anybody they see in order to avoid dying unjustly, and I would agree that it's going to drive off anyone not willing to engage in PvP. I hear the argument, it's PvPvE, if you don't want a PvP, don't play it, but if the devs thought the same way, they would have made the game strictly PvP and left off the VE. They wanted both types of players to find a way to enjoy themselves, and a soft separation of the PvE and PvP players through some hidden point system would give both sides what they want. They would also have to tweak the daily feats, since damage raiders with blank ammo makes it into the feats frequently, and you cannot currently reroll feats, meaning you have to PvP, or just hope your other two feats don't become PvP focused ones upon completion. At the end of the day, Arc Raiders may be a PvPvE game, my sworn nemesis, but it's still plenty enjoyable enough that I don't regret the 68 hours I've spent playing it so far. What's more is, between Escape from Tarkov and Arc Raiders, this is definitely the easier of the two to get into.
Hello.
Would I call Arc Raiders the best extraction shooter currently on the market? Out of the ones I've played and the ones I've seen, I would say yes in the future, but right now a very strong argument could be made.
Don't shoot!
There is a roadmap for the rest of 2025 available to read, detailing new community events, equipment items, enemies, quests, and more coming to Arc Raiders, and I'm excited to see what's next. But that's just my 2 cents. Arc Raiders is available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC for the modest price of $40. I honestly didn't plan for this video to go this long, but if you're still watching, I appreciate it. Be sure to leave a like if you've enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and check out some of our other work. This has been Raider Cygnus Jason, and we will take our planet back from the Arc Menace.